Hello and welcome to Anatomy of Us, a show dedicated to bringing real help to real couples. I'm your host, Melanie Studley.
What's up, guys? My name is Seth Studley. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and together we are high-performance marriage coaches.
We are cutting through the bullcrap and creating a movement of happy, healthy, badass couples all over the world.
Let's go!
Hey guys, what's up? Melanie here. I'm doing a solo episode today. Hello?
Hey.
Hey.
You doing?
I was actually just starting to record a podcast. What's up?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to pray. 12 o'clock.
Oh, okay.
All right. Thank you, Jesus, Creator, for your blessings. I pray wisdom and power and protection and strength over our marriage, God. We are destined to do big things and help thousands and thousands of people. And I pray that you give us the strength and give us the insight to do that, and spiritual protection, Lord, to fight this battle, not against ourselves, not against one another, but things that don't want us to succeed, God. I pray, Holy Spirit, that you help us be strong and thrive, and thank you for your blessings. I pray that you are with the kids spiritually and physically today, and you bless them as their day progresses, God. In your name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Okay. Thanks. Love you.
Can I publish that on the show?
What?
I've been recording this whole time because I literally have everything on.
Oh, wow. That's good. I don't, hopefully it picked it up. So, okay. That's fine with me.
All right. Love you. Be safe.
All right. Love you too.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Okay. This is what I was going to say before Seth called, but I love that Seth called because what an amazing coincidence. It's not a coincidence that call would happen as I go to record this episode. So the reason that I want to record this episode and talk about, I don't even know if I said the introduction or not, but the idea of this episode is really about the spiritual battle that surrounds marriage, surrounds healthy marriage, it surrounds marriages of impact. And why I'm talking about this is that so I'm a believer. Seth is a believer. I became a Christian at 19. If you don't know our story, you can go listen to Anatomy of Redemption. We did like a 5-part series about our whole faith walk and what it looks like because it was messy. We were at Mars Hill Church and it collapsed and hadn't been to church for a long time. And we share like how we became Christians and what all this stuff. So I became a Christian at 19. Seth was raised Christian. And so when we met out here in Maple Valley, he was in the band Emery, a Christian rock band, if you're familiar with that band. And I was working at Starbucks and we started dating. Well, actually, we were friends for a year and then we started dating. And from the very get-go, our marriage, our relationship, our dating relationship has always included things like prayer. We've always talked about God. We've always talked about basically like a higher calling to live a better life. Like that's really been it is a massively foundational part of what our relationship is. So it's important for me to highlight that as we start this conversation because we didn't start out just like, oh, I don't know, it was like, have a good time. Like, no, we actually started out intentionally saying, we are here to become better humans for each other, to lift one another up. And we believe in Jesus and we want to follow Jesus and we want to like baptize our kids and, go to church and sing the songs and help people out. Like we want to live that faith walk in everything that we do. Now, again, in the Anatomy of Redemption series, you can hear about how that got derailed a little bit. But the truth in our marriage is that it has always been centered on Christ. But to be honest, we didn't know how to center our marriage on Christ strategically or like even practically, because that's not what I saw growing up. My mom would pray. Usually my dad wasn't even there to do it, but we would go to church, but we wouldn't like talk about anything at home. And then sometimes my dad would even like theologically tear apart the stuff we learned at church. And you're like, oh, I don't know what I believe. So we didn't have models. And this is not to shame my family of origin. Love them. They did what they did. It doesn't matter. But we didn't have a model to be like, oh, this is how you pray with your spouse. And Seth's family didn't really either. And this is how a husband leads biblically. That is what I believe also, just so that you know. And again, if you're offended by anything faith-based, you might not want to listen to this episode. But if you are going to challenge yourself today, you could listen to this episode. But there's going to be a lot of very Christian tenets in here, and you can be mad at them all you want, but they are very helpful. So, Seth, I believe that men are really the leaders of a household, regardless of if I'm stronger than Seth, if I'm better at building furniture than Seth, if I'm whatever. He still leads, and that is something that I believe is a part of a healthy, balanced relationship. I just do. And there are, again, it looks different for different people. Like I'm not talking about strength. I'm not talking about like smarts. I'm not saying that Seth does all the leading and I just don't think about anything and I cook food. Not at all. But I do believe that Seth is the spiritual leader of our home, and his walk with God impacts my walk with God and impacts my kids or our kids and our home, right? So I'm going to start with that. That is like my foundational belief. And I think a lot of people are afraid to say that they believe that. We hear people talk about this a lot. We also have, like, when we work with our clients, they will say, yeah, I really love the idea of being like a biblical leader in my home. Like the husband will say, yeah, I really want to do that, but I have no idea how. Like I don't have a clue how to do that. I didn't see my parents do that. It feels weird. Like it feels really weird because woke culture is making us say, well, I'm a woman and I can lead, blah. And that's great. And I used to be like that like a week ago. So I get it. I get that it's hard to find that balance. And that's all I also think all a part of the spiritual like realm messing with stuff and evil trying to slip us up and trip us up and pull the rug out from beneath us just when we thought we had it right. And I don't know. So I want to really share, like, again, why this came to my mind and why on earth I would talk about spiritual, like a spiritual attack in your marriage and what it looks like and all of that. Because as Seth and I are, I mean, we're considering moving to Nashville for our business. Also for sunshine, because right now it's May and it's dumping rain in Seattle, but it's been gray and it is going to be gray for another week. But we are intentionally like making a huge step financially with our children's future, with our future. It feels like a step that is taking us out of security. I don't believe that it is, but it feels that way. It feels really scary. It feels really hard. And the purpose of taking that step is so we can reach more marriages with our work. Now, if you have not ever heard people talk about how important marriage is to keep sacred, and I mean like to keep healthy and to keep balanced and to keep like Christ-centered. If you've never heard anybody talk about it, I'm going to talk about it just a little bit right now. Because if you are married, you will understand what it is like when your marriage is out of balance. You will understand that if you're having a fight with your spouse, and maybe this fight has been going on for 20 minutes, maybe it's been going on for 2 days, what's the word? It like infests your mind. To be in disharmony, to be in discord with your spouse is so dysregulating to your world. Then you add a layer of children. If you have children, not only is the dysregulation between you and your spouse really challenging just for you as a person and for them as a person, but now your kids are like receiving secondhand energy from you. They're receiving this like secondhand, not trauma, but like cortisol, right? Like the vibe that you throw out there, your energy, your vibrations of anger and I can't believe he thought this or like whatever the thing it is that you're feeling, your kids are now absorbing that. And that's another layer of complexity of this dysregulated state that you're handing down to your children. So it makes it even more complicated. Then to make it more complicated, it starts to impact things like your kid's future. Because what if Seth and I argue so much and fight so frequently and have such discord and such a hard time coming to balance that we decide, you know what, forget you. I'm out. I'm moving out and I'm going to move out and I'm never coming back. And when I do come back, because I have to come back, I'm going to yell in your face and I'm going to tell the kids when they're with me how terrible you are. So you can see how, you know, it's this avalanche effect. It's the snowball effect of like what could start as a little tiny pebble way up the mountain rolls and gathers steam and size and strength and speed and weight and all of the things. And it just gathers and gathers and gathers until all of a sudden it hits the bottom and everything explodes. So let's say, you know, in this scenario, well, they're gone. They've moved out and now the kids cry all the time because dad's not here. And now they're not going to be raised with a dad. And now mom's going to have to work twice as hard. And now she's like, there's so much research that talks just about the financial impact of divorce on women specifically, because typically the kids end up with mom and then she can't make enough and she can't go out, you know, she can't like raise them well enough and make all the money. And now I'm not shaming single mothers. I'm not shaming divorce. So please don't hear that. Please don't mix what I'm saying up with something that it isn't. Because I'm not trying to imply that every couple should stay married, but I do want to highlight and hold into the light the fact that evil, the devil, demons, darkness is trying to tear apart marriages all day, every day, like it's a party, like it's a fun time. Because if they can do that, they can screw up generations. And again, if you're unfamiliar with the language of like demons and the devil and that, whatever, if you don't like how that feels, just go learn some more about it. Like, you don't have to believe me, you don't have to trust me, but this is my experience. This is my experience that evil is and always has been trying to tear my relationship with Seth apart, because he and I can transform and save your marriage. And that sounds silly, but some of our very best friends are the result of us sharing a podcast and them not getting a divorce because of our podcast, and then them reaching out to us, and now we're best friends. That is good. That is goodness. That is holy. That is sacred. That is love. That is God. That is all good stuff right there. And I'm not saying God is those things. Don't be weird about it. But imagine if we hadn't done the work. Imagine if we had given up. So Seth and I have had many opportunities to give up, many opportunities to give up, and many things that we have had to actually like fight for in our marriage. Excuse me. We have fought for these things like tooth and nail. And so we're really proud of where we've come. Excuse me. Goodness gracious. It's so annoying. But we're really proud of where we've come because we fought so hard to get here, and we fought with the power of the Lord to heal our marriage in that tumultuous first phase where we went through the whole black eye thing. If you haven't heard about that, you can go to anatomyofus.com and look at the season 1. There's a tab on Thinking Podcasts that says season 1. You can listen to all of the season 1 episodes about that whole journey, because I gave Seth a black eye. It was terrible. And our marriage really was terrible. And I tell this to people all the time. This is why I'm passionate about what we do, because we earned it. We fought for it. We weren't just handed a healthy, happy marriage. We fought for it. And every level that we increase in our strength and our ability to help couples, we get attacked more and more. You better believe it. And so we have to do everything we can to fight back against that darkness, that evil, that thing that wants to tear us apart, because it's real. It is real. And so this very morning, Seth and I were talking. We had our therapy session on Wednesday, we had a therapy session with our biblical counselor on Wednesday. We were talking about the things that we're walking through. And she basically was like, listen, you cannot ignore the fact that these are spiritual things you're up against. Like, you have a stronghold in your marriage around certain topics, and it's a stumbling block. It's like I don't know why this image comes to my mind, but I imagine like a big railroad tie, like a big nail, almost like the Jesus to the cross nails, right? Imagine that you took a huge, like a tent peg, and you stuck it through like the hem of someone's pants, like the bottom of their pants, and you nail it into the ground so they're stuck in that spot. That's the imagery that always comes into my head when I think of strongholds. I have no idea why. Is like that they're just nailed, they're stuck there. You can't move. And so there's this topic, this thing. And so for us, I think it's two things. One was how we do finances together, because it's really triggering for both of us, like just in our families of origin. So I think of this like a stronghold is like you're just nailed to one spot and you're fighting so hard to get away from it, and you just can't, right? So in our marriage, I think there's two areas that are really strongholds for us. I'm going to say them because I think it's helpful. So one is my healing journey of having having grown up in a family with complex post-traumatic stress disorder. Okay. I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it meant to like have complex PTSD. Like, how do you heal this? What even is it? What does it look like? So I've gone on this journey. I've just started this journey of healing this. And so what it does look like when your family has this sort of, my version anyway, is this like really dampened everything. Like if all the lights were on dim and joy was sucked out of things and sarcasm took the place of hope, because hope is too dangerous, but sarcasm works. So like my whole family has, and again, I love my family, not saying anything negative about them. This is like a fact. We've lived through some real stuff, which most people have also. And some of that real stuff has really messed us up. And trying to heal from that and realizing like, oh my gosh, Like, that's why I've been mean to Seth way more than I should have been. That's why I've been sarcastic way more than I should have been. That's why I haven't wanted to like snuggle and hug him. I'm healing, or I didn't even know, so I'm not even healing. I was facing complex trauma in my family, and it lives in my body. It lives in my nervous system. Oh, and another amazing podcast is Trauma Rewired. This is kind of where I started learning about that stuff. But that is one area that's a stronghold in our marriage, because that is also me walking through complex trauma for my entire life and not even knowing it has impacted Seth, because I haven't been able to, meaning haven't had the skills to, meaning didn't know how to love him in the way that best resonated with him, that felt healthy and loving and good to him. And so every time I would try to heal from it, he would get sort of triggered and then we would just be in this like, forgive me for the line, it was like a pissing match. I don't know. That's the only thing that came up. A snowball fight of like, well, you did this, but you did this and you did this. And our therapist yesterday was like, there's so much like tit for tat happening right here. And it's like, no, thanks. We're not doing that. And so she mentioned, she's like, this is a stronghold. This area is a stronghold. Another area that we have a stronghold in is really like the skills of, what's the word? The skills of learning how to communicate around finances and how to like run our home financially and the things we want to do financially. But it's not even like the dollars part. It's like the talking about it part. And she's like, I also think there's like a stronghold there. Like there's something that got put into that part of your marriage that has you both tacked down to the ground, and you're just like scrapping. It feels like, dogs on a leash. You're just like fighting at each other and clawing at each other, when really you need to take the leash off, right? You need to get free of the thing that has you in bondage there, that's tied you down, that's messing you up, right? And so it was so helpful to have this woman be like, hey, you're both not weirdo, messed up ding-dongs. Like, you have strongholds in these areas, and evil wants you to have strongholds in the areas. And then it almost is, not almost, but if you want to look at it, if you've done any sort of digging about how that spiritual realm works, is like, evil spirits have been assigned to attack you in these areas. Like, they have an assignment. They have an assignment. And if you've never read the book, The Screw Tape Letters, go listen to it on Audible or read the actual physical book. But listening to books is always superior, in my opinion, in my dyslexic opinion. But the book, The Screw Tape Letters, if you haven't read it, it is amazing. It's not biblical. It's not like from the Bible or anything like this. It's from, what is his name? I think it's the guy who wrote The Lord of the Rings, or maybe his buddy. I can never remember. Yeah, I think it's his friend. I don't know his name. Everybody knows it but me. So he wrote this book about demons training other demons on how to torment humans. And it's fascinating. If anything, read it for the awareness factor of how it works. And it talks about like, the best thing that you can do, and it's like a demon speaking to his nephew. So it's like Wormwood speaking to like some other Screw Tape, actually. It's the Screw Tape is the guy's name. And then I think Wormwood is his nephew. And he's teaching him how to torment humans. And he's like, the best thing that you can do, dear Wormwood, is to like make the husband and the wife miscommunicate so that he feels like he's helping her, but she feels like he's ignoring him, and she can't share what she needs. And he doesn't say, like, get them so used to being out of touch and out of connection that they slowly drift apart. If you can do that, then you've won the human over. Like, and the whole point is evil, is to like take the marriage and rip it apart. And he talks about all different types of things. He talks about addiction. It's really fascinating. It's a very entertaining and fascinating book. Super weird, super like, what are we talking about here? But I think it's really important. And when I read it on purpose recently, because I'm like, I need to level up my skills in seeing evil because I'm facing it more. And I remember someone saying, and this is a dear friend of mine, someone I really, really appreciate and respect and care for. And she said something to me like, yeah, I don't really know why like people listen to stuff like the Blurry Creatures podcast or the Exorcist stuff. Like, I don't want to over focus on negative stuff and evil, because we know that Jesus wins in the end. And it's like, I get what you're saying, but that is like saying, I never want to learn CPR because, well, we're all supposed to breathe. Well, yeah, but sometimes people literally choke. Sometimes people suffocate, and we need to know how to help them. And from my perspective, the more I learn about things like exorcism, like literal demonic possession, and even just spiritual attacks, the more I learn about those things, the more I realize the truth of them and how we need to know what they even look like. Because if I have no context, if I have no idea what a spiritual attack looks like, I will have no idea how to fix it, where to go, or that it's even a spiritual attack. I might just think my husband's the worst person on the planet and he's the meanest human ever to be made, and not see like, or this is actually a spiritual attack that I'm walking through. And I have the weapons of worship. I have the word of God. I have prayer. Like I have tools and resources to manage this thing, and they have nothing to do with my husband. And I don't know where we get this teaching. Maybe I haven't looked hard enough, but I wanted to talk about it because again, Seth and I are walking through this season where we're trying to level up and step up and help more marriages and help people have Christ-centered marriages and help families be Christ-centered. And we're just getting attacked more and more and more. And Joyce Meyer says, new level, new devil. And I want to be on the lookout as a protective measure, not as an obsessive weird, like I'm just looking for evil everywhere, but I want to be on the lookout for this stuff. And so that brings me back to the email that I sent Seth this morning that was based off of the conversation we had with our therapist and the ideas of these like strongholds in our marriage. And basically, again, Seth and I have been going through a hard season, and I want to be transparent about it because most of it is good, but like the part that's bad is like spiritually bad, if that makes sense. And again, I'm being fully honest about it. We're not trying to hide it. We're not trying to lie about it. And that is in fact why he called me to pray is we've restarted doing prayer alarms because we need that level of intensity, intentionality, and dedication to it. So we're doing prayer alarms again. Or Seth started it. I didn't start it. He started it this morning. That was the very first one. You heard the very, very first one, apart from the one that he did right after we talked about this. But anyway, so this morning we were having a little bit of conflict and trying to talk through like the healing stuff around like my complex family trauma healing and how he has accidentally been hurting me in that process, and he wasn't meaning to and I wasn't meaning to, but there was just a lot of anger. And so I was in the bathroom after we were talking a little bit, and it wasn't resolved yet. We hadn't sort of resolved it yet. And we're like, listen, we got to get the kids up for school. Like I got to get lunches made and whatever. And so I'm in the bathroom. Per usual morning routine, I am listening to Joyce Meyer. She's my lady. So I'm listening to Joyce Meyer on a podcast, and I keep hearing the word, literally like it keeps repeating in my brain, which that's not very common for me. Usually it's song lyrics from like Emperor's New Groove. But for this particular morning, I kept hearing the word, bring a solution, bring a solution, bring a solution. And I knew that the solution was, and again, this is what I believe how God works inside of us, how God speaks to us, is like the solution is from God, and the solution reflects back to God. So it wasn't like get the clearing structure. It was bring a solution, and I knew that the solution I needed to bring started with prayer. Again, I don't know how that's what it was, but I knew that that's what it was, and I know that God put that on my heart. Again, it wasn't lyrics to the Cusco song in Emperor's New Groove. So it wasn't from me. And I just kept hearing, bring a solution. And so Seth walked into the bathroom as, I'm putting my makeup on. He was getting ready to whatever, grabbing something. And I just said, hey, like we have to do this differently. We are called higher. We need to stay up here. We can't keep talking about our pain. We can't keep going back in time and looking and, really, pulling apart old injuries. Like we're just re-injuring the same wound over and over and over again. We have to stop doing that. And it has to start with prayer and casting a vision. And I told him, I said, we don't have examples of this in our life of how to lead biblically. We don't have, we didn't see it growing up. It feels weird. We don't exactly know. So we need to cast a vision for that. And I said, and we're going to do this later, we need to literally write down, just like Ramit Sethi and his like rich life plan and vision casting practices that we've done in the past. We need to write down what it looks like for us to live the best biblical marriage possible. And we need to write it. What does it take every day to get to that level? And so that was sort of the conversation part. And I was telling Seth that this is what we need to do, et cetera, et cetera. And he then reached out and prayed, which is huge. That's great. And it was wonderful. And I'm so thankful because that takes a lot of courage. It takes a lot of vulnerability and a lot of trust. So Seth reached out and we prayed, and that was super, super helpful. And I'm very, very thankful. Thank you, Seth, for doing that if you're listening. And then he had to go to work, kids off to school, all that jazz, making breakfast, doing all the things. And he sent me a few texts like, hey, I really heard what you said this morning. Thank you for being vulnerable. We do need to stop like looking backwards. We need to start moving forwards with what we want to do. And then he sent an email, and it was it was a good email. It was not anything like crazy or whatever. And for some reason, it's like it when I went to go reply to it, it was like a spark that ignited this like dynamite in my spirit of what I've been trying to communicate to Seth, but I didn't even know that I was feeling it and I wasn't really saying it. And this to me feels like God breaking something loose that has been holding me back. And so I started in this email to Seth in a response saying like, God has called us higher. And listen, if you're married, God has called you higher because especially if you've got kids, you're responsible for the well-being and the future wellness of a human. And that means your spouse. But then on top of that, if you've got kids, you're responsible for that. God calls you higher when you get into a relationship. God calls us to be as healthy as we can be. And I'm going to side tangent here. Something that makes me so irritated about people getting mad at religion all the time is like, religion is a thing created by people to try to celebrate and honor a God, right? So religion is people doing stuff. God is God. And we mix these things up and we go, oh, well, this religion was bad to women one time. Well, yeah, because that religion was made by people. And this religion abused, or this person within a religious whatever abused people. Yeah, because that person was a person. They weren't God. And so it makes me irritated because, and again, I really like, this goes back to the divine order of love idea, this book I want to write of this concept, because it's like when you really read the Bible and you understand it at a new level, and you're not just reading the words and hearing the wacky stories, you're like, what is the donkeys talking to someone? Like, what are we doing? Like, that's actually in the Bible. What has the donkey got to say to me anyway? But when you start going layers deeper, layers and layers and layers deeper, you see that the goal and the aim is always love. It's always living a Christ-centered life, which is love, health, charity, goodness, kindness. It's generative. It's patient. It's not beating your wife. It's not cussing someone out. It's not murdering someone. It's not stealing something. It's not, busting a hole in the side of a house because you're mad. Like, it literally is the plan and pathway to having the best, most abundant, most loving, most nurturing, fulfilling life possible. It just so happens that porn is not on that plan. Eating to an extreme where you have to throw up is not on that plan. Like these things just don't fit in to over here. But when we think these things over here, like the porn and the gambling, we think that those are God. Yeah, we're going to look at the real God and be like, well, that's boring. I don't care about that. But real God offers real love, real life, real joy, real freedom. Okay, my tangent is done. Maybe it's done. So anyway, like I was saying, Seth sent me this email, and in my response to him, I got fired up like I am right now. And I was like, this is too important to treat as if it's an everyday occurrence. And when I mean this, I mean our marriage. Our marriage is too important to treat like an everyday common occurrence. And specifically for Seth and I, because we're called to do work for couples. I want to do this work all day, every day for the rest of my life. I want to be the Joyce Meyer of marriage. I've said it before. I've said it a million times. I will never stop saying it. I want to be filling arenas talking about marriage and helping couples succeed because I believe that marriage is from God. And the devil has a target on your back to tear your marriage apart. And you need to know how to stop that from happening. You need to know and have the weapons to fight against that. And we don't talk about it enough. So again, I want to be the Joyce Meyer of marriage. You heard it here. Not first, but you heard it here. So in the email that he sent to me, my response back I thought was a really, really cool way of looking at it and a good analogy. Because I was like, I really want this to capture Seth the way that it captures me. And now again, I'm so passionate about this stuff because I fought for my faith. When I became a Christian at 19, I lost all my friends. I don't have any friends from high school because I'm not the same person I was in high school. When I became a Christian, I felt I literally gave everything up. Like I used to party, I used to do drugs, I used to dress crazy. Crazy is a good term, not like inappropriate, like hoey. I dress crazy, like Seattle, Capitol Hill crazy. Mohawks, shaved head, spikes, everything. That's how I was, like red eyeliner. Like you look at the craziest makeup thing you could think of and then make it punk and then make it weird. That was me. And I gave all of that up when I started to follow Christ. And that was a huge, I feel like I'm going to cry. That was huge. I fought for my faith and I continue to fight for it every day. So everything hits me a lot differently than it hits Seth. And that's fine. There's no judgment there, but it's just different. But I wanted him to feel the power. I wanted him to feel the importance of his prayer in our succeeding in our marriage and in the health and well-being of our marriage. I wanted him to know the power of his relationship with Christ for our success in our business and mine too. So I'm not saying that it's only Seth, but I have this fire for Jesus that Seth just doesn't have the same relationship with him. And so I thought of the best analogy, and it's almost silly because I thought of the Lord of the Rings. Okay. The Lord of the Rings is based off of the Bible. Like that's how the inspiration came that Tolkien wrote it from the Bible. All this wacky stuff with orcs and like, go read your Bible, go listen to Blurry Creatures. They are like mirror images. It's like a way of taking biblical principles and making it palatable and feel like fiction and feel like entertainment. That's all the Lord of the Rings is. And it's fascinating and it's such a good movie. And we love those movies. We watch them regularly. Like it's almost like the Xanax of movies. Like for us, you turn it on and you're like, yeah, we're chill, right? I'm not saying to take Xanax. I don't even know what it is. And y'all know that that's true if you know me. So I use this analogy in the email of the Lord of the Rings, but specifically now, if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, when Gandalf is shouting at the Balrog, "You shall not pass." And I was like, he is essentially showing you the way that I believe that prayer needs to be inserted into our marriage and into our family and into our mission with that much authority. Like Gandalf, he's got the staff and he's facing this Balrog. If you haven't watched the movies, the Balrog is like this crazy giant thing in the bottom of the caves. And it literally looks like the devil. Like it's all black and it has like devil horns and his mouth has fire inside of it. His eyes are like fire. And it's, majorly bigger than Gandalf. And he's yelling at it and he keeps repeating and he's yelling at it and he hits the thing, "You shall not pass," right? So he's praying. I mean, again, this is my analogy that I do for Seth. Like his prayers have power. He's claiming that this thing isn't going to happen. He's proclaiming it over and over and over again until he wins. I won't spoil it, but he wins and it's awesome and it's cool what happens next. I feel like I already spoiled it. But using this language of like the way that even Frodo and Bilbo to save their world, like their world of Hobbiton or whatever, they had to go and learn new skills and fight people and get bloody and like go on an adventure. But the adventure was scary. They had to face their fears. They had to all the things, right? They had to decipher what was real and what was fake. What was the evil? So like the ring, like when Frodo would put the ring on or Bilbo would put the ring on, all of a sudden everything was skewed. And in my mind, I'm like, that's what deception and evil is. That's what they're showing. So, right. And then he puts the ring on, then all of a sudden it's the eye of Sauron is right there and it can see him. That's what it feels like. That's deception, right? Again, the books are actually based off of the Bible. That's why it feels so like such a good fit, right? But I was using this analogy with Seth. I'm like, we can't be gentle with our prayers, lazy with our prayers, blasé, passive, because what we're up against is not any of those things. And again, I'm just loving this, like the passion that it puts into me, the energy that it puts in me to think of it like the eye of Sauron, and it's bad and it's evil. And then it's all of his minions. It's like Sauron and it's the orcs and the Uruk-hai. I feel like the biggest nerd right now ever. And it's the wargs, I think is one of the things. It's all of these creatures. Now you're getting into Blurry Creatures land. You can go listen to that if this is tying some things together for you. But it's this like perverted creatures that are trying to stop you from getting and being healthy. They're like physically attacking you. They're messing with your mind. They're putting thoughts into your head. They're confusing you, right? Everything from like the dead marshes. Like when he looks into the dead marshes, man, I feel like I know way more than I thought I knew as I'm speaking. But like it messes with their minds, and they're all of a sudden, oh, they're in it. Now they fell in because their brain, they have to train their brains, right? Same thing with the forest that they're in, and everyone's confused and turned around and they don't know where they're going. They've got to get above it. They have to get up and out above it to get the fresh air, to get the clarity. And so I was saying in my email to Seth, I'm like, and listen, y'all, when I email Seth, I email him. There's bold, there's highlighted words. It's intense, it's real. It's just like this, but in email form. But I was using this analogy because I feel like this is what it takes to fight for your marriage. And fighting for your marriage equals fighting for your kids. It equals fighting for the well-being of your community. It equals fighting for your sanity, for generations of people. And I'm so passionate about it because I think culture, and again, there's a lot of evil in culture. And I don't say that as some weird, like, obviously we live outside of Seattle. There, like our branding looks like our branding looks practically evil, but we live in Seattle. I'm not a weirdo. Like I'm not a shut-in, like living out in the hills, trying not to talk to anybody, wearing, sackcloth and ashes. That's not the life that I live. But I do believe that there's a quote from some movie or book or who knows what, that it's like the devil's greatest trick is making you believe that he's not there or that he's not real. And I wish I could think of the real quote, but it's like, it's better than that. It's like cooler than that. But it's like the biggest trick the devil ever pulled was making you believe he doesn't exist. And again, that's sort of the premise of the Screw Tape Letters, where it's like, make everything so subtle and twisted and make it even look attractive so that you don't see that evil is out there. So that's I think there's so much of that in our society right now where things are twisted just enough. And it's, again, back to the like Lord of the Rings analogy where when they would do certain things, they didn't realize that they were like under the influence of evil. So again, putting the ring on, all of a sudden stuff has shifted. But even in Bilbo's case, it felt safer because they couldn't see him. So he's put on this thing that's evil and it almost feels safer because now no one knows where I'm at. But it's really dangerous because the devil knows where you're at. You have like taken and made an alliance with the devil to put that ring on, right? And so I think that as that pertains to relationships and marriage specifically, and especially marriage with children, if you aren't on the lookout for what's trying to tear your marriage apart, it will tear it apart, but it will feel right? It'll be like, well, I don't need to address my porn addiction because she can't see it. And, like ignorance is bliss. And so think of Bilbo putting the ring on, or Frodo, or whoever you want to think of. They put the ring on and what it did to Gollum. I mean, the ring did that to Gollum. He used to be what is it called? Ent? No, he used to be a normal hobbit. But like you're hiding it. And they talk about that all the time in the Bible to bring things out into the light. But so like in this case, in a marriage, well, she doesn't need to know. What she doesn't know won't hurt her. And she can't see me doing this anyway. And it's the poison of the ring because your wife might not be able to see you. Your wife might not be able to see you, but the devil, the eye of Sauron, sees you clearer than ever before when you indulge in these things. Again, and it also could be a drinking problem, right? Well, I'll just drink when my husband's in bed, or I'll just drink when my wife's at work. They can't see it. What they don't know won't hurt them. And it's that, like, the second you give into that temptation, that seems normalized, right? Brunch, what is it called? Mai Tai? What's the orange juice thing? Have a mojito? Mojito. Sure, call it that. Have a mojito. I don't know if that's right, but have that. It's fine. Doesn't matter. It's fun. The way that we have glamorized alcohol in our culture is evil. It's evil. It is evil. Now, a drink every now and again, I don't think is evil, but the way we've glamorized it and said drinking is fun. Go ask an alcoholic how fun drinking is. Go ask someone who has ruined their liver, ruined every relationship they have, can't hold a job, can't do anything. Ask them how fun alcohol is. Is it really fun like that? Like the Zima commercials make it out to be? No, because there's evil wrapped in it in so many other ways. And And evil can use good things to make evil happen, right? I don't know if that makes sense, but there's just so much there. And again, when it comes to marriages, protecting your marriage in every way possible is worth every amount of effort that it takes. It's worth fighting for it. It's worth spending money on, whether that's therapy or coaching or counseling or being in the men's and the women's groups that we run. It's worth it. And I was thinking about this yesterday for some reason. Who knows? I think a lot of things for some reason. I was thinking about this while I was driving. What is the monetary impact of taking a marriage and pulling it apart? What is the monetary impact of that? Not set aside even the relational, familial, family impact that has. What is just the financial impact of that? And then on the flip side, what is the financial positive impact of staying married? How do these things work together to create balance and all this? I was just thinking about it, and it's man, I wish people looked at investing in their marriage the same way that they look at investing in the stock market or investing in property or investing in, real estate or getting a really good job. I don't know, people have a really skewed idea of marriage help. And again, I think that there's a reason. I think evil is all over that. I think evil is all over the fact that all marriage help should be free. Why? Is your oil change in your car free? Is the McDonald's that you're going to eat free? Is your house payment free? No. And what's the most important thing in your world if you're married? What's one of the most important things to your entire world? The health and well-being of your marriage. It just makes me so irritated because I think that it's actually evil. And again, if you're not a religious person, you're going to look at me and think I am the weirdest, wackiest lady on the planet. But I'm not worried about that. But I really want to really, really hit home this idea of the power of actively fighting against spiritual attack in your marriage. Be on the lookout for it. Imagine, if it helps you to imagine the Lord of the Rings and them fighting I'm trying to think of the names of the castles that they were in, but the elves are all on the top and the stone giant dudes are coming at the bottom, and they're on the lookout. They're not just in the castle lounging. There are people that are guarding the castle. That should be how you treat your marriage. Guard it. Guard it. Be on the lookout for stuff that's going to take it down. Be on the lookout for the sneaky stuff that gets in. Ooh, that makes me think of Wormtongue. The bad guy that's in the one castle with the king, something. And he's a bad guy who got into the castle itself, and he was manipulating the king from the inside. It was an inside job. That happens in marriage all the time. It could be pornography. It could be alcoholism. It could be a gambling addiction. It could be being harsh with your spouse. It could be lying. There's a million different things that it could be. But why are we not, as a society, as believers, as people, saying, hey, we need to be on alert. We need to be on the lookout for these things. We need to attack them. We need to have things to attack them with, right? So let's say I'm on the lookout, but I have no spiritual tools to attack the attacks that are coming at me. I go, okay, well, I'm here on the lookout, but I don't have arrows. I don't have a bow. I don't even know how to shoot a bow and arrow. I don't have a sword. I don't have anything I could throw. Well, at least I was on the lookout. No, that's not enough. That is not enough. I don't know. I get so worked up about this stuff because when I talk to clients, and potential clients especially, who don't know what healing will look like, who have no idea how their restoration of their marriage will impact the generations of their family, I just want to come through the screen on the Zoom call and grab them and shake them. And I'm it's worth every effort that you can give it. It's worth it to heal these things, to fight through them, not fight each other, but fight through them, to look for evil. It's worth it. It's worth it. You're going to save your home. In the Frodo analogy and the Lord of the Rings analogy, you're going to save Hobbiton. You're going to save the areas around you. Goodness gracious, if you are an adult and you inherited trauma or dysfunction from your family line, your parents, you know what I mean. If you can stop it with stop it from getting to your kids, you will save their marriages. You hear the words coming out of my mouth? See what I mean? Anyway, I just wanted to share that I do believe that there is evil coming for marriages. It happens all the time, and we're blind to it because nobody wants to talk about it. And everybody thinks, oh, that's weird. You're being really weird. That's a weird thing to say. You weirdo, go put your tinfoil hat on and, use your rosary beads and be a weirdo. Like, whatever. You can call me a weirdo all day long. I don't care, and I won't read your email. But also, I think that we can transform generations. You can help your children have the marriage that have a way better head start in marriage than you ever had. If you can be the one to go on the quest to fix it, be on the lookout for evil, learn the skills to fight it. Prayer, the word of God. Again, like read your Bible, go look for the resources for it. There are amazing people with biblical resources for how to pray for your spouse. There are books. How does, The Power of a Praying Wife, which Coach Brian Ward recommended to me because I asked him, and he's amazing. I love you if you're listening. You're awesome. But Power of a Praying Wife, Power of a Praying Husband. Read biblically based books about marriage and get over the fact that this stuff feels weird because the devil doesn't care. Actually, the devil loves that you think it's weird. The devil would love for everyone to think this is too weird to talk about forever and ever and ever. And so then we never talk about it, and he can just pick families apart, just flick them apart like you would flick a fly off of something. We flick flies on our home. I don't know if y'all do. It's not very nice, but you're just like, bing, there they go. Tore that marriage apart, messed those kids up. And again, please do not hear me say that if you come from a home of divorce, that it means you're messed up, or that if you are divorced, your kids are messed up. I'm not saying that at all. I do hope that this has been a helpful message for you. If it is, let me know. Reach out to us. You can send us an email at hello@anatomyofmarriage.com. Again, go listen to Blurry Creatures if you dare. Go listen to the confessionals. Go listen to the Exorcist Files. But I'm going to be talking a lot more about this stuff because this is really how Seth and I are leveling up in all of the work that we're doing. Has to have Christ at the center. And I told Seth yesterday and this morning, I said, if Christ is not at the center of this work, he will bring us to our knees because he's called us to it. So whatever we are doing that is out of alignment with Christ is always going to fail because he's called us to a mission. And I mean that. He's called us on a mission to save marriages. He put it in our heart so strongly. And if we don't follow it, it's like Jonah and the whale, go to Nineveh. He goes to Tarshish or whatever. I don't know if I said those backwards. He went the wrong way. He said, nope, God, I'm going to go the exact opposite way of what you want me to do. And he got swallowed by that big old fish, spent some time in the belly fluids, belly jelly, and then got spat out right where he started. And God said, I told you to go this other direction. So I believe that if you're not in alignment with your calling with God, he'll take you to your knees until you obey him. And obey is a great, beautiful, wonderful word. I almost got it tattooed on me just the other day. Obedience is beautiful. Obedience is a sign that I love you, that I care about you. People need obedience. People need boundaries. People need rules. Because without it, evil is like roaming around like a lion in fierce hunger, seeking whom he can devour. That is a Bible verse. Where it is in the Bible, who knows? But that's the way they talk about evil and the devil, as he prowls around like a lion in fierce hunger, seeking whom he can devour. That's me, right? The devil's going to devour me if I'm not on the lookout and I don't have the tools and I don't have the mindset and the God mindset and the words of the Bible and the faith in God. Ugh. If you can't tell, I get excited about this stuff. Anyway, y'all are amazing. Again, I hope this is helpful. Reach out if it's helpful. Share the show if it's helpful. It is really, again, we're going to be talking a lot more about this. So if you don't like this kind of conversation, one, I either challenge you to stay in it and see what you can learn from it anyway. And number two, just don't be mean to us about it. It's our journey. You're on your journey, and I'm not going to be mean to you about your journey. So don't be mean to us about ours. We're out here trying to help people and trying to make their marriages survive and thrive and be amazing. All right, people. I love you. You're amazing. Have an awesome day. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Anatomy of Us. This podcast is produced by my mom, Melanie Studley, and hosted by my dad, Seth Studley. Our show is edited and published by our producer, Reva Hansen, from Creative Media Support. Special thanks to our Patreon members that get an extra episode every week. Thanks for watching. Love you. Bye.